So over the next two videos, we're going to take a look at the oldest football clubs from each country in Europe. To establish what counts as the oldest, because it can get messy, these are the rules that we will follow. The club must be an independent football club, not part of a state troop or university or anything else. Any founding date will be when the club started playing football, not when it was just initially set up. The club's country will be where it currently resides in as well. And it must have continually existed, playing football regularly in an organised way. So with the rules done, let's take a look at the oldest clubs in each country. Today we will be only looking at Western Europe and Scandinavia, focusing on the rest of Central, East and Southern Eastern countries in Europe next time. So, going from oldest to newest, here's the list. So first up we have England, and this is well known at this point, although there would be a lot of debate if we just changed the rules slightly. But the oldest independent continuous football club in the world and in England is Sheffield FC, founded in 1857, and it is recognised by FIFA as being the oldest football club in the world. However, Sheffield FC continued playing its own Sheffield rules all the way up until 1877, when it finally fully adopted the FA's rules. Next up we have Wales, and there is a bit of a debate around this one, but the generally accepted answer is Wrexham AFC, being founded in 1864. Wrexham of course play in the English League system, currently sitting in the conference, but it is located in Wales, so I think it counts as Wales. The controversy, however, stems over an incident in 1884, where the FA expelled Wrexham for crowd trouble. However, they simply changed their name to Wrexham Olympic, and as far as I can tell, continued to play football. Therefore, they do count as Wales's oldest club. Not moving too far away, we are going to Scotland, where we find Queen's Park from Glasgow, who were founded in 1867. Queen's Park are a notable team for many reasons, one being that until a vote in 2019, they were still an amateur club despite playing in the Scottish professional leagues. They've also made it to 2 English FA Cups, as the team predate the Scottish Cup. Moving away from Great Britain, we actually go to Denmark first, and Denmark is a bit of an odd one. The oldest team altogether seems to be KB, who were founded in 1876, though they didn't play football until 1878, which is still incredibly early for continental Europe. But KB and another team, B1903, merged in 1992 to form FC Copenhagen. And if you ask FC Copenhagen, their founding date would be 1992. Potentially then, this opens the door for others to challenge this claim. However, according to my rules, the team never stopped playing football, it just merged with another one. And interestingly, the first team took on the rights and titles of B1903, but the reserve team of FC Copenhagen took on the rights and titles of KB. So I guess FC Copenhagen's reserves are the oldest team in Denmark, which is probably the only time a reserve team would be considered older than the first team. Moving back to the United Kingdom, we go over to Northern Ireland, and in Northern Ireland there is some debate, with Limvardy United FC having the date of 1876 on their badge. However, I, or apparently others, couldn't find much evidence for that date, and so most accept them being founded in 1884. That opens the door for Cliftonville, who have solid evidence for being founded in 1879. But it didn't start great for Cliftonville, as in their first ever match they actually lost to a rugby team, 2-1, and then in their first match against a football team, they lost 9-1 to a Scottish team. Back to continental Europe now, and we move to Switzerland, and here we find the team of FC St. Gallen, who were formed in 1879 and still play in the Swiss Super League today. Unlike most of the other teams on the list though, St. Gallen exists simply as a solid team, whereas many of the others on this list are either one of, if not the most successful team in their country, or they're a bit of an amateur side. St. Gallen have won the league twice and the Swiss Cup 3 times in their long history, but have mostly been just kind of a mid-table side. Now we go to the Netherlands, and the Netherlands' oldest club is one of many that started playing another sport before switching to football. In this case, it's Royal Haarlem Football Club, who were initially founded in 1879 by a 14-year-old boy, and played rugby. However, they would switch to football in 1883, making them the oldest Dutch club. This team has won 3 Dutch Cups and holds the record for the largest win in the Dutch Cup, a 25-0 thumping of VVV. Hopping just across the border to Belgium, we still find a very early entry of 1880 for Royal Antwerp. However, at that time they were only a cricket club, but still 7 years later they would also start playing football, and no other football team in Belgium had started playing yet, so Royal Antwerp, with the date of 1887, are the oldest club in Belgium. Next up we have Portugal, and like many places across the world, football in Portugal was first popularised by English sailors and merchants bringing over the game, and that began in around 1875. And whilst earlier, more unorganised games of football spread quickly throughout the country, the earliest continuous club was Académica, which was founded about 12 years after the introduction of football in 1887, who play today in the second division of the Portuguese league. Somewhat of a surprise, next up we have Finland, as football in Finland isn't always seen as the biggest sport, as ice hockey is normally the #1 spectator sport in the country, but as far as I could tell, the oldest football club in Finland is Helsingin Ponnistus, founded in 1887 by Victor Dam and 5 others. However, initially it seemed to have been set up for gymnastics first, but there's no reference I could find, in English at least, to when they started playing football. So I suppose we'll just have to use the 1887 date, but maybe put an asterisk by this one. Then we have Germany, and we perhaps could find the oldest football club outside of Britain in Germany, Dresden English, which was formed in 1874. However, they went defunct in the 1890s, so don't make it onto our list. Instead then, the oldest German club is BFC Germania in Berlin, who were founded in 1888 by a 17-year-old Paul Jestrom and his brothers, and some of his schoolmates. Next up we have Spain, and there does seem to be a little debate in Spain about who the earliest club is. The earliest club that now plays football is Gimnàstic de Tarragona, though they initially started out as a gymnastics club that started playing football much later. But the other two claimants, Huelva and Sevilla, were founded in 1889 and 1890 respectively, but the debate concerns whether Huelva played football as early as 1889. The fact that Huelva's name is Recreational Club and not Football Club does sow some doubt into my mind, but I couldn't find any evidence that they were doing anything else in the early years, so for now I will go with Huelva. Moving back to the British Isles, we come to the Republic of Ireland, and its oldest club seems to be Bohemians, which was founded in 1890. They were initially formed as a part of the United Kingdom, as the Republic of Ireland wasn't yet its own country, but they did continuously play football as a part of both the United Kingdom and then after independence as well. They're also one of the most successful Irish sides, having won the league 11 times. Next up we move to France, and this is a bit of an odd case, as Wikipedia will tell you the oldest continuous football club is Le Havre AC, founded in 1874. However, that club in 1874 was a rugby club, and they didn't start playing football on a regular basis until 1894. And so that gives us the chance to mention AS Strasbourg, who were formed in 1890. But during their history they've had many mergers and name changes, not least because in 1890 Strasbourg was in Germany, and so they played in the German league until the end of World War I. However, despite initially being in a different country and merging and changing names a lot of times, as of today they are in France, and they never stopped playing football, so in my mind the oldest French team that played football is AS Strasbourg. Moving back to Scandinavia, we come to Sweden, and the oldest Swedish team I could find was Gothenburg Ball Club, founded in 1874. However, they were made defunct in 1887, therefore this opens the door for OIS, who were founded in 1887, but seem to have played their first football match in 1892. Having won the Swedish title now 12 times, they are the oldest Swedish team, starting in 1892. Next up, we have Italy, and there can only really be two contenders for the oldest team, and both claimants to the title share something in common. They were both formed as a cricket and football club. The older of the two was Torino Cricket and Football Club, formed in 1887. However, they were very short-lived, only lasting 4 years. But a couple of years later, in 1893, the Genoa Cricket and Football Club was established and is still competing to this day. Initially, cricket was the main concern, with football being something to do during the winter. Also, Italians weren't permitted to join, as it was a British sporting club abroad. However, Genoa would go on to become a successful club and compete in Serie A to this day. Moving just north of Italy, we get to Austria, and in Austria, they very nicely gave us a clue to who the oldest team is, because it's First Vienna FC. First Vienna was set up in 1894 by Nathaniel Rothschild, who is a member of the banking Rothschild family. He didn't set it up for himself though, instead he set it up because his English gardeners kept playing football and he didn't want them ruining the plants. So instead he gave them some land and some jerseys to play in. Their badge was also designed by a man from the Isle of Man, which explains the Triskelion logo. In Norway we find one of the more delightfully named teams, Odds BK, or more commonly known as Odds. Initially they were IF Odd, the name coming from a novel, and I'm sorry for this pronunciation, Thersvedat, in which one of the characters is a Norwegian athlete named Orvar Odd. They were founded as a gymnastics team in 1885, but then began branching out and playing football in 1894 for the first time, making them Norway's oldest football club. The oldest Icelandic team is actually older than I had expected, being formed just before the 20th century in 1899. The team is KR Reykjavik, and they were the only team in Reykjavik for a decade. Next, we come to Luxembourg, and their first club was CS Fola Esch, or more commonly, Fola, and they were founded in 1906. They started, like many on the list, as one of the most successful clubs, but then began a decline. However, recently they are back, and they won the league title in the 2021 season. Interestingly, they once refused a merger with their larger local rivals, Esch, in the 1990s during a period of football consolidation in the country. Jumping a few years ahead, we come to Monaco, and as you might expect, the oldest club in Monaco is AS Monaco, who play in Ligue 1 in the French league system. Initially, however, Monaco was a multi-sport-based operation formed in 1919, with the football side coming slightly later in 1924. Unlike some of the other micronations, Monaco has never applied to be part of UEFA or FIFA, so their teams and players are bunched in with the French FA. Next, we have Liechtenstein, and Liechtenstein does not have its own football league, with the teams normally opting to join the Swiss footballing pyramid instead. The oldest of these teams seems to be FC Bolzers, who began playing in 1932. This whole setup is a bit odd, as there is a Liechtenstein Cup, unlike Monaco, which the teams from Liechtenstein can compete in, and the winner gets to go and play in Europe representing Liechtenstein whilst playing in a different country's league system. Next we come to Andorra, and the oldest club in Andorra is FC Andorra. Founded in 1942, they play in the Spanish league system. Their greatest success came when they won the Catalan Cup in 1994, and interestingly, their owner is now none other than Gerard Piqué. Finally, we come to San Marino, and in San Marino there is only one professional football club, ASDV San Marino, who compete today in the Italian 5th tier. Unfortunately, I couldn't find much about the other amateur clubs in San Marino, and so don't know if they might be older. By default then, I guess ASDV are the oldest club, and they were initially found to have San Mari's representation in the Italian league. They began operations in 1959, but they've had to be reformed multiple times in 1970 and 2000. So the founding date is either 1959 or 2000, but I guess I'll just go with 1959. And so that wraps up part 1 of the oldest football clubs in each country in Europe. Stay tuned for part 2, where we will tackle all the European countries that were not on this list, because that was just a little bit of football history. Thanks for watching.